welcome to Galactic TV. So today, Sue and I gonna talk about how to utilize a gift. So viewers, I'm really sure you guys do have your own spiritual gifts, and you may know or you may not know. But today we want to share about how you can utilize it to serve others and serve yourself. So the we're going to share our experiences, how we discovered it or how we started using it while we aren't really sure of it in the beginning, that kind of stuff. So I hope you're going to enjoy it. So Sue, first, can you start opening how you started to utilizing your gift?
Sure. When I was a very young person, I had this feeling of always knowing how people felt about me or each other. If I was in a room, I could always feel what was truly going on with somebody, whether they spoke about it or not. But I wasn't aware that it was an ability, this empathic nature of mine. And so, for many years, I just avoided situations. I didn't tend to like to be in big groups. I didn't, there were certain situations that I would avoid altogether, like if it was maybe a big concert or something like that. Um, I just tended to be on the very small group type person. And I had terrible stage fright, and, so for a lot of years, I would make sure that I was never in the limelight for any reason, um, and I didn't understand why I had all these feelings, and then as I went into, therapy in my 20s, I started to understand that, I was an empath. I am an empath, and, because my counselor is a spiritual counselor, and he would ask me questions about things, and, he was very, very intuitive, and, he could do readings, way into the future that would blow your mind, but he tended to not do that because he, didn't want to give away the story. We come here to this earth in this existence because there's things that we want our soul to grow. We want to have these experiences. So many times he would only give guidance about things that were, but that were tantamount to that next stage of growth. So that's how he used his gift in therapy was he could see what our lessons were, but
How
he,
did
he
you
didn't.
use the gift of empathy you just told me about?
Yeah, so he,
No, you.
helped me. I know, I'm getting there. He helped me to understand, why it was that I was experiencing so much depression all the time, and, it was because I was picking up on my family, and, a lot of the stuff that I had going on in my own energy field wasn't my own, but I didn't know that, and this person helped me to differentiate between my energy and other people's energy. So it was really, really important to have a person that understood these things to guide me in understanding them as well. So that's my first tip is
So
um,
how do
definitely.
you utilize others and yours? Can you give our viewer that tip?
So many ways. I mean, every day. It's really hard for me to break down a list, but I know who I want to spend time with based on my empathic ability to feel other people's energy.
Feel
It
good?
helps me.
Feel good energy?
It depends on the person. If the energy is very dark and it's somebody that I care about, I may want to help. I have to tune in with myself and see how I'm feeling that day if I'm able to offer that ability in assisting. It really is a balancing thing because if I am not feeling particularly strong myself in my emotional body, then to give to somebody else at that point in time can be counterproductive. So it is a balancing act. It is um, it's important to tune into my own energy field before I am willing. And I've used my empathic abilities throughout my whole career, as far as when I was a social worker and a counselor. Um, I was able to really feel what an individual was feeling. And even I would start to get messages about what was going on for them, what their main issue was. And then I could weave that into my counseling and therapy with individuals. So it's really been a blessing, but I had to learn how to use that skill, that ability. And what about you? What's your primary um,
Yeah,
ability, and how did you find it? And
it was
I,
similar to yours, but I felt vibration of other people since I was a child, but I wasn't really aware of it, like really aware of it. So I was very uncomfortable being held by my mom because her vibration wasn't really soothing or anything. But of course, I kind of forgotten about it, and I remember I was always crying when she tried to hold me. And then my grandma, who had loving unconditional love vibration, was always comfortable. But besides that, adding on to what you have experienced, I always know like who is lying and who isn't lying. So to finding out about the facts, that takes time for digging, and then you don't know when you're a child, but you just instinctively know. People just say things, what they say thing and what they're really thinking inside of their minds are like completely different. So I always felt more comfortable to be with like few people who their word and their heart matches, or animals, because they just they don't have a double sided, like what they say and what they are is different, they're the same, they're like in sync. So I was like that before, but because of I knew that, of course I kept my circle of friends very small, very small. And I try to be nice to other people, but more like acquaintances. So they're not necessarily my friends. It's just acquaintances, because I kind of know, like as after I grow up, like it's not like, hey, good idea to reveal everything about their life to people just because they seems to be nice people. That doesn't mean they are.
mm,
And if they say nice thing, doesn't mean they are. Of course,
yeah,
we are ascending right now, so more and the more people who are closer to their heart and how they are acting, like younger generation goes, they are what they say and what they mean is matching more and more. So that's different. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but yeah, it's just discernment. Sense of discernment was very useful skill for me. So I never watched anybody like on the social media just because they are famous, spiritual, whatever. I just look at the person, and if their vibrational level is not that high, I'm not gonna watch it, because you never know. They may have an implant or something.
you
So
never know. That's for sure. As soon as you get that feeling, you got to ditch out of that session. But I think it's really important to talk about. The ability to um, reach out to someone who knows about these things if you're confused. I think we all have abilities. We all have intuition. We all have, because we're all connected to source. We're never disconnected. Now, our beliefs have to do with whether or not we recognize them and give them credence, our abilities. However, I think more and more, a lot of people are going to start noticing their abilities, whether it's a psychic, there's so many different ways, things that fall under the term psychic, but there's so many different ways. Like some people will hear things, some people will see things, some people just know things, and other people are like us where they feel. people's true intentions and what's really happening to them. And so that's kind of a telepathy, really. It's an emotional telepathy. Um, truth, being able to decipher truth when you hear it, see it, read it. Um, for folks that are just working with or starting to recognize their abilities or working with them, it may be useful to uh, find another person who has these skills and, who might be teaching. Um, there's development all over the place, people offering spiritual development and ability development courses. I like Sheila Maria. She's in the UK. But also, like what we do quantum healing. Those kind of things can be found out during a hypnosis session or a coaching session. So there's another thought. But I was blind for a long time to understanding why I felt the way that I did. And it would be really nice if people didn't have to wait so long like I did to figure it out. As you said, I would have feelings about people, but I would ignore them. I would think I have no rational basis for feeling this way about this person. Like if there was a nefarious intention there toward me. And so I often gave too much information, or I was too friendly, or I was too free with my heart with those people because my thinking mind would tell me, well, I have no reason to feel this way about this person. And so I would disregard what my internal knowing was telling me. And then I kept getting hurt and hurt and hurt. And so I think that's why it's really important for individuals to kind of acknowledge their
Yeah.
talents and acknowledge that internal voice because that can save your butt in so many ways. I can't even tick them all off right now. It can save you in business. It can save you in your family relationships with friends, any kind of social circles you're in, all social media, like you said. I mean, there's so much information, social
Yeah.
media. So if you can use your intuition to decipher what is something that would be good to listen to, that feels good for you, versus something you should turn off right away because it's hurting your energy field.
Mhm.
um, those are really, really good reasons to tap into your abilities and
Yeah,
figure out what they are and how to use them.
yeah, that's like related to the previous podcast we are talking about utilizing, I mean, trusting your intuition, right? And
Hmm.
also, after you started to discover your new gift, like my example was when I started the channel, I didn't go through any training or anything. I just decided, hey, I'm gonna channel Cassiopeians. For some reason I thought I can connect with 70 Cassiopeians, so I started a channel and then started taping YouTube video. I couldn't channel more than 3 minutes at that time, but that was 2 years ago. So I paused it when something good came up. Of course, took much longer time for me to connect compared to now. And then when I connect, maybe it's only gonna last it for 3 minutes, could be five. But the point is, I never doubted myself this was like made up, or I'm just saying stuff like, I just say, this is channeling, I just gonna post it. So
Hmm.
don't deny some ability shows up. You just keep on doing, just like a running, just like a marathon, just like a practicing pole dancing skill, which I do. Even if in the beginning you're not that good at it, like compared to so and so, you gotta practice every day or every time, and eventually you get really good at it. I can channel now after 2 years about hour without me getting really, really tired. I don't think I want to do more than an hour. It's really, really exhausting to channel. Um, I mean, yeah, in a way it is. Especially to the group which is not within my soul group. I have no effort when I channel Ashtar or archangels or Jesus or all this Jesus group. Like I call it Jesus group because it's kind of like related to Christianity. that kind of group. But when it's outside of my group of entities, like if I have to channel Buddha or Ganesha or some entity I know of, but I don't hang out frequently, I have to focus myself on the channel, like which is something similar to I channel to the Akashic record gatekeeper, because it's not part of my soul fragment. That's a totally different entities. And so
Mhm.
I had to focus on, and I have to channel it for real. I mean, I'm channeling it, but you know what I mean. So that takes a lot of like a fine tuning and a practice. But when you find something you can do, it could be clear audience, it could be clear voyant, it could be clear cognizance, anything. You started to sing, or even like you know how to read the talk card, and then you can kind of interpret outside of what card says, but all this imagination is coming up to you or something like that. So when that happens, my advice to you is to be open minded, whatever the gift is, and keep on practicing. And then don't criticize or don't judge or don't tell yourself, hey, other people can do better job than me. No one can do the best job unless you practice. Okay, no one is genius from day one. You gotta do it every day. That's my advice. How about you?
Well, my tip is, just like we do in hypnosis, whenever I think one of the reasons why it takes a lot of energy, from us in our human bodies when we connect or we channel, um, we have to raise our frequency pretty high to reach them, okay? Or it has to be in that state anyway. So, um, for me, when I get done doing it, I usually end up needing to eat something right away because I've used a lot of fuel in my human body, getting up to those higher, really high frequencies. But um, just like in hypnosis, we need to close the session. And I think this is part of what the fear is with people opening up to their abilities is, I think maybe there's a fear going around that if they open up, that all this stuff can come in that they don't want. And this goes back to setting intention, like we talked about, several weeks ago, and we have been talking about. You are not going to open your energy to the boogeyman if that's not what your intention is. Okay. So, all this burning incense and having your crystals and all this other stuff is great. It's fine. It's nothing wrong with it, but you don't really need it. And here's why: because your intention is, I always put out, we say in session, we invite the our soul team, our guides, our higher selves, God, the Christ consciousness, whatever we say in session, it's always the highest frequency beings. We're never inviting in Lucifer. Okay, not that I'm saying not that I'm saying the Luciferian energy isn't helpful in some ways, but that's a whole nother topic. But that's not who we're calling in. Okay. So when we open a door, we naturally set an intention for who we are willing to have come in and then close the session. When we're done, we thank the beings that have come in to speak with us. Whether it's the client's other selves or their higher self or a family member, whoever has come in, we thank them and we invite them to go back to their dimension. And so that's my tip is, if you're fearful of letting in something that you don't want, it's not going to happen because your intention isn't for that. But if you're fearing it and you're really, really terrified of it, you could just make it happen by accident because you're so afraid of it, right? So always open with the highest frequency beings as an invitation for them to come in and thank them for coming in, and then close it by, thank you for your wisdom and your and you that's closing your energy. That's not their energy's always on, and we're always tapped in, okay? But we did a focal point, so that's why we called them in. But when we close our energy, that's just another form of feeling comfortable for yourself, saying, "Okay, I'm done with this now." So set time aside to practice your ability. Don't just. I mean, you and I, because of all the years of practice we've been doing this, we've gotten to the point where we can just leave ourselves open all the time. We don't have fear about it because we know the lower vibrational entities can't touch us. For people that are just starting out or just realizing, they're going to hear a lot of things from other people about, oh, you can have some entity attached to your soul. First of all, I cry bullshit. That can't happen. But number two, if you're worried about it, just close it down. When you're done. Thank you for your information. Thank you for coming to me. This is my prayer that I say every time. And we're done now, or amen, or however you want to say I'm done now. That's all amen means, by the way, is I'm done now. But whatever you feel comfortable doing, but just close it down and then open it up again when you're ready. And then as you get used to doing this, as Erica said, if you do it daily, you'll realize swimming in these energies that you don't need to protect yourself. You don't need all these crystals and incense and all this other stuff because your energy is so high anyway that the lower beings can't touch you.
Yeah, they don't exist in the same vibrational dimension because
No.
they can simply exist. You might hear about it if you turn on to like some news or truth and news or some negative ones or whatever, right? Those stuff you might think of fearful, but unless you tune into that direction, you don't encounter that because you are vibrating that way. Your world is consist of your vibration, and you don't experience it.
Nope.
Yep. So,
And there are people that unfortunately they're like charlatans. They're like the original tarot card readers back in the day that gave a bad name where they were making up stuff and um there are some people that make their living off of people that are afraid of attachments, entities, all of this stuff. And I'm sorry, I know that's really harsh, but they're making their living off of your fear.
yeah, let me share about that story. Like when before awakening, like how those tarot card readers they sit down in front of the street in New York City and they tell you like, hey, like you have this entity attached, and then you're stupid enough to talk to them, right? And they tell you, hey, this candle could cost like $600, and then after you burn it with this flower or something, it's gonna go away. I mean, I never
Mhm.
paid for it, but that is a typical example. Like they kind of try to, money get the money out of your fear. Like try to, get the money out of your fear. I don't know. I can't come up with a word right now. But that's so
Oh, it happened to
even
me. It
even
happened to me.
huh?
Yeah, I had a
Sorry.
there was a many years ago, there was a psychic that lived in a little purple house, and people said, "Oh, she's really good." So I went to her. I was in a space of fear. Boy, did she eat up that fear with a shovel. She even had me go to the ATM and get money out for the candles and this oil I was supposed to put in
Did
my
you
bath.
say?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I fell for it like a complete sucker because I was in a fear state. This was a long time ago, but it's I'm just laughing at how accurate it was what you just said because that exactly happened to me. And then once I got home, I thought, what did I just go and do that for? It's like she tapped right into my energy and just ate that fear up, and it was dollar signs for her. She was a little old lady who lived by herself. I almost said in a shoe. That little purple house I laugh about it now at how gullible I was, but it's okay because I learned. I knew when it's like I brought the candles home and I knew this was folly. I knew it wasn't gonna do anything or change anything. I just, wasn't connected to my intuition. I was in a fear space, and that's why she got one over on me. But it never happened again after that, so I have to call it a win.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you buy into, like, let's say, entity attachment or whatever, you are the creating that story within your timeline. So
Mhm.
you say, hey, this exists, but you already created it by believing it to have a certain lower density vibration, which is already within your body. Could be emotion, could be anything, but you turn that itself call as some kind of entity attachment or influence, stuff like that. If we don't know any knowledge about implants or entity, right? Like I call it entity in the beginning, or no implants, implants at the beginning. But if I didn't know how do you call this, whatever the stuff I see within other people's field, or the stuff I took out of my brain, it, I would just say some kind of chunk of energy. So, chunk of energy is chunk of energy. And you take out, you take out. But people name it in various forms like implants or entity attachment, entity or Lucifer or Satan or whatever that is, right? So we name it, we create it as, or we transform it as a new form of whatever that is. But when we put as a simple term, it's a lower density chunk of energy.
Yep, that's all
Yep,
it is.
within
And,
you.
we always have free will. So
Hmm.
the thing is, even if we have a lower density chunk of energy somewhere in our field, it either came from another lifetime that's carried over. Guess what? Your soul knows about it. Your soul agreed to it so that you could experience it,
Yeah,
so that you could figure out how to drop whatever trauma, whatever caused this energy. You could look at it and see it and or understand that you're ready. You're so tired of dealing with it that you're just ready to let it go. That's a transformation. That's a soul growth. So, like, that's one of the difficulties I have with, some of our cohort is it's almost like they're telling people, "Well, this was against your will." No, none of it's ever against our will. Even if we were one of those people like in the 50s, 60s, and 70s that agreed before birth to be taken by an alien, what we call aliens, I call them extraterrestrials, um, that was a birth plan. So if somebody did get taken out of Idaho up into a ship and there was some whatever done, the soul knew about it ahead of time and agreed to have that experience. It was never against the soul's will. So that
yeah,
individual on some level gave permission. Now they don't remember it probably in their conscious awareness, but we are never victims.
yeah. Because a lot of times when you are in that situation, you are probably happen to be in one life part of this great group or whichever those group, and then you are one of them. So you say,
Mhm.
hey, take some part of my body to help out my own people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
can
big
make that a
time.
part of your life because you
Well,
are here on earth.
and I don't wanna sound like self-promoting, but I mean, this is the whole reason why I got into quantum healing because I wanna help people find their own answers. And just because you know 5 people that have a similar experience to yours, it doesn't mean that you had that experience as well, or that's what it is. We like to bring people into the state of consciousness where they find out these particular details. And that's how they can apply it to their life to make improvements if necessary. But getting back to the original, how to utilize your gifts. If you're afraid in any way of tapping into these things, um, we're trying to tell you that you don't need to be because as long as your intention is to only work with the highest beings, you're safe. No one's ever going to victimize you. Nobody can take you over. It's not possible. Somebody can't disturb your free will, whether it's an ET or an angel, a dark angel, a boogeyman. They can't. It's just we're under the law of free will. So as long as your intentions are high, go for it, try it, experiment with it, open yourself up a little, even if it's for 5 minutes. Like Erica said, you do 3 to 5 minutes because that's what you're comfortable with. Start there and do it every day and keep developing those beautiful abilities that you have because really we have them to help us in this life. They're not a scourge.
Yeah. So after you are confident about it, then you can start offering the gift to other people. But in the beginning, when you are kind of like, oh, I'm not sure my tarot card reading is good enough. I mean, you can read for your friends until you feel really comfortable with. Um, but the most important thing is believe in yourself, believe in your ability. While you are clearing yourself, do not ever to think like, wow, I have a super high vibe. I don't have to do anything. I do see some people I don't know. They get super, egotistical, and then they just went there, and then I can see they're not working on themselves, and then boom, one day their vibrational level drop from really high to like 4 or something. That is not a great level to serve other people as when you are in the spiritual industry. That's my
Yeah.
opinion. But you know,
No, I agree with you completely. I mean, that's why I said in the beginning of this that, how do I use my skills? It depends. I mean, as you just said, if we're not taking care of our own energy, we really can't give anything meaningful to someone else.
yeah.
So that's first and foremost. And I just do energy meditations and, when you said clear, if there's some energy rolling around from something that happened that day or some fear I had or something, I'll turn it over to my spirit team and I'll ask for help for that. You always have to ask. They're not going to intervene on your life because, as I said, free will. But the minute you ask, boom, they're right there. And so if I'm struggling with something, some emotion, some fear, whatever, I ask them for their help to help me clear it. And I say, I'm willing to let this go. And then I bring in the light energy, whatever colors they send me, I just allow it into my body. And that kind of goes with the energies that are coming into Earth now. Everybody's been hearing about the Schumann resonance and all the galactics, the angels. Everybody you can imagine is sending Earth waves of energy. That's only gonna help you if you open to it, if you're willing to accept it. Again, free will. I sound like a broken record, but that's the law of this universe. So, in order to receive these beautiful waves of energy, you have to be willing. And guess what? That's gonna amp up your abilities. Before you know it, you're not gonna be questioning anymore whether the ability is real or not, because it's gonna happen to you so often that you're gonna be convinced and you'll be able to trust that and, keep what else do I have available to me?
hmm So, as for the meditational place, I highly recommend. I personally do it from his meditation. You can go to Steve Novel, Steve
Yeah.
with DE and NOB as a boy, EL. And he has a channel in YouTube. And all of his meditations, especially the angelic ones, real angels present during that meditation. So it's not just any other meditation like a guided meditation, which is okay for you, but really doesn't have that much effect, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
I love
his,
his work.
yeah, his meditation, real angels preside with you when you're doing whichever the version of meditation he's creating. So that's something I recommend you guys to do as a daily, as I'm doing it. And yeah, so you are the conduit of the high frequency energy. Me and Sue are too. So when some of you feel like, hey, I seems to have a no special gift, like, but I think I'm a light worker or starship, don't get discouraged. Okay.
Mhm.
In the beginning of the ascension journey, we are, or even at the end of it, seriously, our at first, at the most, the job is exist. Don't
Yeah.
kill ourselves, exist on this earth. Our 99% of job is done by existing and breathing the air. You feel like you're not doing anything, but you are saturating these high frequency energy from those galactic being and the other groups. And then you go walk outside, you meet people, you chat people, you meet people on Zoom or whatever that is, you interact with people on social media. By you doing that, you're spreading that high frequency energy to the people who are not receiving it. Even for little, you're making the difference by you alive.
Mhm.
Okay?
I've
So,
often said of several people in my life, you're an earth angel because just being in the room with you, it doesn't even matter if we talk or don't talk or whatever. I just feel better being in your presence. There are people here that that's their main purpose is to bring their light to this earth and to, share it with the community. And not with any particular ability specified, but I can think of teachers that every child that they encountered had benefited by being in their presence. So just being and breathing is really an amazing gift.
Or you can be a teller or cashier at the supermarket.
Yeah,
You want to think like, oh, my job, I'm not doing anything. But you love, if you love doing this job, right? And you're talking to people and then you're interacting with the people and you happen to know your light work or station, you're already serving other people by doing that,
yeah,
you
big
know?
time. That I'm really glad you brought that up because that is so important.
Yeah. So sometimes, even if you might want to do spiritual business, but where you're at, you probably have to do this mundane kind of job and you're wondering like, hey, why am I doing this? Like I help a lot of clients who want to transfer from that state to spiritual job. However, some of the stuff I'm telling you guys, even I have to do regular earth kind of work for a while, um, because that's where we all like kind of go through in the beginning. And then your job isn't, because you have to be ready, like energetically to serve. Like you have to reach certain frequency to serve the maximum level. So until you're preparing yourself, you might have to do something at a job. And then, sometimes that job might not be something you really wanted to do, but you kind of have to do for exist. And then you start wondering like, oh, what's the point of me being here? The point is you are still, being a sponge of this high frequency vibration, so you being exist, you're already serving. So I want you guys, all of you, to remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any last tips, Sue?
I don't know. I don't think I can top what you just said. That was so valuable. So I don't want to muddy the water. I think that was really great.
Yeah, so let's end with this and then be confident about who you are, be loving about who you are, and be acceptable of who you are. Doesn't matter where you are at in the spiritual level or your ascension journey, we're all serving. So that's what I wanted to leave as a last notes. So me and Sue gonna bring more interesting topic every Friday. So please share, like, subscribe, and we see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.